It was a crisp Tuesday morning on my ranch, the kind where the sun creeps over the pinewood hills, painting the dew-soaked fields gold. My cow, Daisy, didn't you dare call her a bull, was in one of her moods. Ha-VYing bulldozed the fence again like it was her personal punching bag. I was mid-argument with her, wah-VYing a rake and threatening to enter her in a burger contest, when my cousin Nate, the shiny new vet, sauntered out of the barn. He was clutching an oat milk latte, sporting a grin that screamed, "I just got my license and life's gonna be awesome." "Morning, Sarah," he chirped, ignoring Daisy's chaos like a man who hadn't almost lost a shoe to her last week. He started babbling about matching vet polo shirts with embroidered logos, but before I could tell him where to stick those shirts, a dusty pickup roared onto my property like it was auditioning for a low-budget action flick. Out stepped a guy dressed like he'd watched one too many Ranger documentaries, green uniform, big boots, sunglasses, and a hat that screamed, "I'm official, trust me." He strutted over with the confidence of someone who had no clue what he was doing, but figured speed would cover it. "You the property owner?" he asked, flashing a badge that looked like it was laminated at a dollar store. "Depends," I shot back, eyeing the tranquilizer rifle slung over his shoulder. "You here to shoot me? Or ask for directions?" He didn't crack a smile. "Emergency wildlife control. Reports of a rogue bison. Dangerous. Been tracking it for days." My eyes slid to Daisy, who was chewing a fence post like it was fine dining. "That's Daisy. Not a bison. Just intense." He raised the rifle. "Ma'am, step aside. Public safety." Right then, Nate wandered into the scene, whistling some annoying folk tune and holding his latte like it was a trophy. The ranger flinched, misjudged, and fired. The dart zipped past Daisy's ear and buried itself in Nate's left butt cheek. His eyes went wide, like he'd just learned he was adopted, and he crumpled in slow motion, latte flying, arms flailing, face planting into a pile of hay and vet pamphlets. The ranger muttered protocol breach and bolted for his truck like he'd just robbed a bank. I screamed something unladylike, grabbed my shotgun and a pitchfork, and tore after him, only for my four-wheeler to cough once and die like a diva in a soap opera. By the time I got to Nate, he was mumbling pop song lyrics and tried to check his pulse with a twig. His pupils looked like they were auditioning for a sci-fi flick. I yanked out the dart, saw the labelsome experimental animal-grade tranquilizer in, called Sheriff Malone. He answered mid-bite of his breakfast sausage. "You sure he wasn't just sleepy?" he asked, smacking his lips. "No, a fake ranger shot my cousin with a cattle dart and called my cow a bison. Get over here before I shoot someone for real." It took him 30 minutes, and he brought a folding chair. Nate was loopy, calling me his emotional support llama. Malone munched jerky, glanced at the dart, the tire marks, and Nate reciting poetry to a shovel, and nodded like this was normal. "Strangest thing this week," he said. "Well, second strangest. Remember that raccoon that stole a kayak?" I wasn't in the mood for raccoon tales. I wanted answers. Who was this ranger? Why target Daisy? How'd he get custom darts? Malone promised to investigate, which meant he'd forget by lunch. So, I took matters into my own hands. I found the dart casing, a partial boot print, and remembered the badge, Central Plains Wildlife Task Force. Sounded legit, except it didn't exist, no website, no Reddit threads, nothing. That night, while Nate slept off the dart and muttered about resuscitating a hedgehog, I examined the dart under my workshop light. It had a tiny serial number and a logo, ARN. I'd heard that before. Nate once mentioned a sketchy startup, Animal Research Network, offering him big bucks for a BHA-VY oral enhancement project. He laughed it off, called them mad scientists. Now it seemed they weren't just mad, they were real, and they wanted Daisy. The next morning, things were far from normal, even for a ranch where chaos and cow dung are daily specials. Nate woke up on my couch, tangled in a blanket with socks tied around his head like a bandana. I handed him coffee. He sniffed it like it might explode. "Do I still work here?" he groaned. "You never worked here. You just hung around till I gave you chores," I said. He winced, clutching his butt. "That ranger shot me. I didn't dream that, right?" "Nope." And he wasn't a ranger. I showed him my EVY Denke pile, the bag dart, boot print photos, my sketch of the suspect. More scarecrow than human, but the shading was solid, and a sticky note with RN circled 3 times. Nate blinked. Arn? That's real. I thought they were just some shady company handing out pins at career fairs. They were real, and they'd shot him the butt. Then Aunt Clara barged in, wearing a sequined robe and VYing a notebook full of scribbles that might have been angry clouds. I've seen a man in a hat, she declared. In the clouds 3 times this week. Big hat, skinny neck. It's a warning. I muttered about decaf, but she insisted her dog barked at an VY Cybele Raccoon omen of cover-ups. I thanked her and sent her to her moon journal. Nate and I hit Google. Aaron's website was slick but hollow, full of buzzwords like livestock cognition and ethical enhancement. Their LinkedIn listed a familiar name, Ethan Walsh, a creepy vet school classmate of Nate's who wore lab coats to bars and bragged about a cattle communication algorithm. Could be him, Nate said, squinting at Ethan's photo. He'd totally shoot someone by accident. We drove to town, found Malone napping in his cruiser with a milkshake and a fishing magazine. He scratched his head at RN, suggested I watch crime shows, and offered Nate butt ointment. We took that as a green light to keep digging. At the old feed store, we spotted the Ranger's truck, dusty and hidden behind a dumpster. I popped the door with a screwdriver, a trick from locking my keys in my truck too many times. Inside was a mobile lab. Jerky wrappers, syringes, and a tablet stuffed with files on Subject 34 Daisy. A VY Deo showed her in a strange pen, 6 months ago, wearing a tracking collar and snorting at a drone. My stomach sank. I'd bought her at a government surplus auction. No mention of experiments. Another file, Retrieval Protocol Phase 2, had maps of my ranch and listed Nate as potential interference neutralize if observed. He blinked. That's me. They knew I was here. Back at the ranch, Daisy rubbed the gate like a giant puppy, but we knew trouble was coming. That night, I set up trail cams and motion lights, sleeping with a shotgun nearby. At 3 a.m., the cam caught a new figure, not Ethan, shorter, broader, carrying a heavy-duty leash. Nate scanned Daisy at dawn and found a neural interface chip, not just a tracker. It could control her BHA VY, and if we didn't remove it within 72 hours, she'd shut down, stop eating, and VYing, leave VYing. Aaron had built Daisy as a remote control prototype, and now they wanted her back or dead to keep their secret. I called Malone, using my Storm and Snake's voice. He grumbled, but came out, squinting at the footage. Looks like someone walking a pig. I snapped. It's a leash, and they're here for Daisy. He shrugged. If they've got legal papers, not much I can do. Nate added that Daisy was an unclassified asset, meaning ARN might have a claim. I stared at Daisy, now head-butting a hay bale with eerie precision. If that chip stayed, she wouldn't be Daisy anymore. So we planned a cow heist. Nate suggested surgery, but we needed her unconscious. Last time someone tried tranquilizing her, Nate got darted. Aunt Clara offered her storm shelter, and used since the squirrel uprising of 2015. We mixed sedative into Daisy's molasses treat, loaded her into a trailer, and headed out at dusk. Then a sleek black drone with red lights buzzed us. I swerved. Nate screamed. Daisy, barely sedated, busted the trailer door and leaped out like a wrecking ball, headbutting the drone into smithereens. Birds scattered. Squirrels probably went deaf. Her chip signal blinked. Wildly, her body was fighting it. We reloaded her with boards and prayers, reaching the shelter. Nate prepped a ping-pong table as an operating table, sterilized tools, and dug into Daisy's neck for 2 hours. I held her hoof. He dropped a scalpel and cursed loud enough to wake the cornfield. Finally, he pulled out the cheapo pulsing black beetle. I crushed it with my flashlight. Daisy snorted, opened one eye, and was back. By morning, word spread not about the surgery, but a blurry photo of Daisy's mid-air leap, going VY RAL as a government experiment. The town, where a llama once nearly became mayor, ate it up. Malone showed up at noon with a letter from a federal agency claiming Daisy as a prototype from a BHA VY oral initiative sold by auctioneer. No proof, just vague threats. They'll bring agents if you don't comply, he said. I promised a shovel and a lawsuit. Nate had a better idea. Go public. We contacted Cletus Clickbait, Ramsey, who ran a conspiracy podcast, saw rural revelation saw. He arrived in camo and 3 microphones, nodding as we showed him the chip, drone footage, and ARN files. Government's got mind-controlled cows, I said. He didn't blink. The podcast, Mind Control Moo, hit 50,000 downloads overnight. Reporters, scientists, and a cow rights active VYSD called. Nate's vet friends reported similar oddities, strange equipment, shady recruiters. Then Ethan emailed, "They're coming. Not for the cow, for the chip. Hide it." We'd already split the chip, burying one piece by the fence, hiding the other in my pantry. That night, 3 black vans rolled up, no markings, just crunching gravel. 4 men in suits, and a woman who looked like she blinked in code stepped out. They claimed to be from Deus, while VYing a redacted warrant. "This is about containment," the woman said. I crossed my arms. "Unless you're milking her, you need a judge." Tension spiked. Daisy snorted, making a suit flinch. Then Ethan appeared, hands up, in a stolen ranger uniform and neck brace. "They're not Deus. They're ARN contractors running illegal projects." Chaos erupted. The woman barked orders. A suit grabbed Nate. Daisy charged, ramming a van's bumper off. One guy dove into a ditch. Ethan hid behind Malone, who yelled, "Calm the hell down." The town sirens wailed, called by neighbors. The fake agents fled, Leah VYing smoking vans. Ethan vanished, but left a flash drive with files on enhanced livestock across 3 states. The podcast hit 2 million streams, sparking questions Congress dodged. The USDA denied everything but started an investigation. Daisy became a star. Tourists came to see the drone-smashing cow. We fortified the ranch with cameras. Nate opened a vet clinic. Clara sold conspiracy merch. I skipped a TEDx in VYT to fancy. Daisy stayed her smug self, chewing fence posts like she knew all our secrets. She probably did, especially since Nate's ultrasound showed she was pregnant impossible for a prototype. Now, here's where it gets wild. Was Daisy just a fluke? Or are there more like her out there, chipped and controlled? Is ARN a rogue outfit? Or is the government in on it? Should we have gone public? Or do we just paint a target on Daisy's back? And that pregnancy Watt's cooking in there? Drop your thoughts below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more crazy ranch tales. Let's stir some trouble together.